Lifeline for consumers stuck in a debt trap, or is it? President Cyril Ramaphosa has signed the controversial National Credit Amendment Bill into law despite numerous objections. Now, this means relief from crippling debt for the very poor, but not everyone is happy with this. For more on this, I'm joined now by BUSA Acting CEO Cas Kubadia. Cas, good evening, and thanks for your time. You're unhappy about this. There are several issues around this as to why it's not going to make the situation better for anybody, including those who it says it's going to help, and the economy. Tell us why.
Now, let me just also clarify. I'm speaking as the BUSA MD.
Oh, today's the BUSA
Banking
MD. Okay.
Association MD.
Okay, I beg your pardon. Sorry
because this is a banking issue.
Okay.
So we are extremely concerned about the signing into law of this bill. We had petitioned the president quite a few months ago, before the elections actually, asking him not to sign the bill in its current form. We offered to meet with the presidency in our petition to talk through our rationale for this. Unfortunately, with the exception of an acknowledgement of receipt of our communication, the presidency did not contact us and did not engage us, and now we see that the bill has been signed. The problem we have is that there are a number of debt restructuring mechanisms in individual banks as well as across the industry, and I mean the broader credit industry, that are working. And we had taken the view that if, with the support of the credit regulator, we could actually bring those up to scale, and those wouldn't interfere in the market and would actually go beyond the National Credit Act in actually affording relief to consumers. What this act does is that it actually creates an environment where banks will be very reluctant to lend to low-income consumers because debt could be expunged.
Yeah. They'll never get the money back.
And they wouldn't get their money back. The other issue is that if they do lend, because of the riskier nature of that lending, because of the possibility of expungement of debt, the cost of lending would go up. Now, so this is counterintuitive, actually. It actually makes it difficult for low-income consumers to actually access credit from the formal banking sector.
So it's going to help them for now in terms of getting rid of the debt that they have now. But how will they go on to live, I suppose, is the question, because these are people who are constantly going to need that kind of support. And I can see what the dilemma will be here. But so you say the banks might have to up in terms of how they lend, up their lending fees. So how do you circumvent this? What do you do then?
Well,
to do right by people, yeah.
Right now, and we're waiting for the gazetting of the Act, and the gazetting of the Act will tell us how they want to implement it and so on, when they're going to put the regulations into place, and we will obviously engage on that to try and limit the damage. But right now, it's law. And we'll begin to see the consequences of this law. We pointed out the consequences. We did a major economic impact assessment, which showed the impact on the economy. That was made available.
What will this do to the economy?
Well, if lending doesn't happen, and if low-income consumers don't have money to actually do spend and to be productive in the economy, that has a negative impact on the economy. That creates job losses, and it's probably the worst time to actually do this. Yeah. We have a situation where unemployment has gone up to 29%. Yeah. We have a situation where we're trying to retain jobs and people are actually retrenching just to keep their head above water. And so this is extremely bad. It sends out a message of not confidence, but it reverses that. It sends out a message of uncertainty, and we believe that this is extremely bad for the economy, for borrowers, for lenders, and for the country.
Well, you're the legitimate lenders. Yeah. What about other lenders? What about illegal lenders?
Exactly.
What's going to happen there?
It just pushes people into the Mashonisa market, because people won't be able to access lending from banks who actually do this responsibly.
So you have to wonder, what was the president thinking?
Well, that's the issue. I mean, the presidency hasn't engaged us on this, and we have to ask, why is this done? My own view, it's not in the national interest, and we would like to engage the presidency to understand why he signed the bill. We believe we're not the only people who petitioned the president on this. So we will be meeting our members next week to look at an approach toward this. Our approach has always been that we want to work with government to try and arrive at legislation that creates a good balance between borrowers and lenders, because that's how credit markets work. We believe this piece of legislation doesn't do that, and we will continue to engage, and we will consider whatever other options we have.
Well, surprisingly, COSATU is saying that it needs to be implemented without delay, that this is about time. And I have to wonder if they actually understand what this means, what kind of trap this creates for those who
well, I don't know.
seem to benefit from it.
This is the problem. We look at short-term issues, and even in the shorter term, we can't continue to send out a message that people can borrow, and if they can't manage their borrowing, their debt will be expunged. We're not promoting the correct values in that.
Well, Cass,
so we need to look at that.
Like you say, this is a law now.
Yeah.
You can't get rid of it, but you're going to have to find a way to soften the blow. When you meet and when you get to talk to the president about this, what kind of solutions will you go with, or what kind of measures to make this?
Well, firstly, we'd like to understand why. And secondly, at times we need to, I think, get to a situation where if you put into place what in our view is bad law, despite the fact that we put arguments on the table why this law is bad, then I think we need to suffer the consequences of this. As a country, we can't put into place bad legislation and say, okay, now how are we going to actually manage this? Bad legislation is bad legislation.
Is it possibly unconstitutional, this?
We're going to be looking at that. We're going to be consulting our lawyers. As I said, we'll be meeting to consider different options next week.
Okay, we'll catch up with you when you do that and hopefully get an update. Thank you very much. That's the Banking Association of South Africa's Cass Kovadia just talking to us about this rather controversial debt relief bill which has now been signed into law.